Hello and welcome to your astrological vibrations for Saturday, April 30th, 2022 by Gaia Blooming. I am Mimi, and our energy mantra for today is I recognize where I am honoring my value. Today we have a new moon partial lunar eclipse. The lunar eclipse filter, that's what we're going to call it, adds a certain amount of energy to a new moon. And a new moon always packs a lot of punch. It always has really strong energy. It is energy in which we can seed intentions. And I always say the new moon in Taurus always feels particularly powerful because Taurus, as this earth sign, has very fertile soil for us to utilize. And part of us fertilizing these seeds, planting these seeds, is being aware in this energy where we are feeding our energy. If we are feeding it into that which we value, or where else we may be feeding this energy. Now, I'm going to dig into this eclipse, of course. However, there's so much other stuff happening in the astro that feels so potent in this. So one of the most potent things, speaking of value, is we actually have Venus and Jupiter conjunct. They are conjunct at 27 degrees. This means they're working together. Venus is one of the co-rulers of Taurus. So Venus brings to light that value energy. Venus is the yin. Venus is us knowing that which we value. It's knowing our worth. Venus can also represent relationships. Venus can represent our gifts, our talents. It can represent the beauty and abundance, just pure abundance that's in the world. And with Jupiter, Jupiter is a sign of expansion. So this is a very powerful conjunction to feed our alignment, to feed our energy into. This is why today, I would say even more than any other day, it's so important to feed the intention of feeding your energy, lots of food reference, feeding your energy into that which you value. My hope as well is that in this seeding of intention, you are seeding intention into honoring the energy of the yin, of Venus. The yin energy has been so repressed over time in this world, and there has been a rising and an acceptance, but there's still so much work to be done, and this work is truly done within ourselves. And so keeping that in the back of your mind, how can you value and utilize the energy of the yin? Part of the energy of the yin is even valuing and connecting with the energy of earth. So do keep that in mind in and through this. Now, I will say, just as a side note, with Venus and Jupiter conjunct, especially in Pisces, watch for escapism, watch for going overboard, whether it's shopping or food or anything else pleasurable in this energy. It's going to be very easy with Venus and Jupiter hanging out together to go overboard. And staying in balance is a very beautiful way of honoring your values. Now, there's one other thing that I want to bring to light, maybe two, before we dig in deeply into this scope. We have Neptune and Saturn kind of playing this sextile cat and mouse. Sextile, again, is a helpful connection, but it's interesting because we've got Saturn, which has karmic energies already, and Saturn in Aquarius is like, hey, can we start visualizing a new world? Can we start visualizing and seeding a new world? And Neptune in Pisces has a lot of karmic, like past life connections. And so with this, between these energies of Saturn and Neptune connecting, I feel like there's an opportunity where we can cycle around, circle around to repeating patterns, or we can spiral into something new. Now, it's really interesting. I've been getting really into the gene keys, and I actually looked up the gene keys for this date. It's the 24th gene key, and that's actually one of part of the wisdom of this day is addiction creates circles. It's one of the quotes. Addiction creates circles while invention creates spirals. Keep that in mind in and through this energy, especially as you are aligning with your values, that we do not have to circle these old patterns. We can spiral up into something new and better, but it is going to take alignment with that which you value. I think alignment with value of the yin and yin intuition, yin guidance to help us from doing the circle and instead moving into spiral. So I just found that was so profound. I was like, oh, it's so right on. It's so on point. In fact, I have in the cards the flow card in reverse. And this is one of those instances where it's like we don't need to follow this flow. Like it's like that whirlpool effect. It's creating your own path in this. So let's dig into this eclipse because powerful energies. So the last time we had eclipses in the signs of Taurus and Scorpio, which will be our next eclipse, was in 2014. So if you think back to where you were at 2014, what was coming up? We are working through those energies again. And actually thinking back, I remember being in fear in 2014, having some fears come up about things that actually did happen later in 2015. One of the fears was my father. I was afraid of my father passing, and he actually did in 2015. So interesting. And yet it created a spiral. Anyway, but part of this, again, is where can we feed into value in this energy? Just brought up a lot of feelings. Eclipses will do that too. Dark of the moon feels, but where we can align with that which we value. So for instance, just in this analogy, you know, I had this fear of my father passing, but to feed into the value in this case would have been connecting with him, right? Which I actually had opportunity to do that. So it's the same kind of thing. If you have fears, as we all do, in this world at this time, where can you plant seeds? Where can you plant a garden? Where can you feed your power, which is part of, if you didn't see yesterday's scope, look into that with Pluto going retrograde. Where can you feed your power rather than feed your fears? Now, sometimes in those fears, there's wounds, there's traumas that do need to be looked at. And yet, my feeling is, again, put more energy, not into fighting the old, not into fighting the fears, but into planting the garden. The Sabian symbol for 10 degrees Taurus is a Red Cross nurse. And so we're being called into that energy. Where can we nurse? Where can we heal? Where do we need to bring healing attention? And again, well, I'm going to bring the second Sabian symbol into this. 11 degrees. Some people like to look at the next degree. So 10 to 11, the Red Cross nurse, and then 11 is a woman planting a garden. So where can you nurture these seeds? Where can you nurture that which has growth for you? We don't want to grow the fears. There's enough of that, right? We can feed into the growth of this garden, of these seeds, in and through this energy. So there's so much power in this, but valuing your attention, valuing your energy, and where you are feeding it at this time is very important in and through this. Now, this energy is also taking us into the eclipse portal, and the eclipse portal has a lot of intensity. I just did the month ahead scope for my patron group. You can go check that out in my patron group. There's a lot of intensity, and as we build to this Scorpio eclipse, I do think there are going to be fears and things that we're going to have to address. And yet, with this notion, I can tend to my seeds. I can tend to my seeds. I can tend to my garden. I can tend to my power is so important in and through this energy. Recognize the value of your attention. Recognize the value of your intention and feed your energies into this, in and through this eclipse. Now, a lot of people are talking about how this eclipse is conjunct with Pluto. To be fair, it's 4 degrees off of Pluto. You don't really look at 4 degrees as a conjunction. It is near, did I say Pluto? I meant Uranus, sorry. 4 degrees off of Uranus. Mercury is in the shadow, and I am feeling it. But 4 degrees to me is not a conjunction. It is close. I do not consider it conjunction. However, the moon will be, within several hours of the eclipse, rolling over Uranus. We have several days before the sun and Uranus meet. I don't think that's going to be till like May 5th, I believe. So we have several days till the sun and Uranus come together in this. Uranus does bring change. Uranus is the revolution, evolution. And so that energy still feeds with this. A lot of us fear change, and yet change is so necessary. Change is what happens when we plant the seed in the ground and it starts sprouting. Change is what happens when the butterfly or the caterpillar cocoons to become a butterfly. Change is an important part of this process in all of this, even the change of shifting our mentality. So it's recognizing, going back to the circle and spiral analogy, where are you in a circle and where are you called to spiral up in and through this and leave behind. Bring in that change, bring in that revolution, evolution. There may be feels that come up in and through this, and yet all of this astro energy together is so extremely potent. I will also mention that Mars is at 11 degrees through this. So Mars at that 11 master degree, Mars in Pisces, aligning our actions with our highest divine calling in and through this can be one of the most powerful changes and shifts that we can make. That being said, it will be connecting to the sun. The moon, sorry. The moon in Taurus. The moon in Taurus connecting to Mars at this time might bring on the lazy cat. So it may not necessarily be about acting. It may be the yin energy of seeding it within yourself to be brought forward in action at a later time. So do keep that in mind. Card-wise, I've got some interesting cards. I'm going to bring this one forward because this one's so powerful. Patience. Growth in such good timing, right? This growth is coming. It's funny, I pulled the 7 of Pentacles in my Patreon group as well in a different deck. So patience for the process. There may be some things that need to fall apart in this, and the falling apart is not bad and it's not wrong. Don't get too up in your mind about what needs to fall apart. Again, can you focus on your value? That is where you're going to find your harmony, and that is where the pull is. So keep that in mind, and if you find yourself in the tower flow, realize you don't have to be stuck in the circle. You can create a spiral. So, leaving this here, holy eclipsing. You can book a reading with me, especially if you are struggling or need some help and support right now. Reach out, email me, mimiclark@gmail.com. Besides all this, the better it gets, the better it gets. There's more than enough love in the world for you. You have the power. And honor your values. Namaste.